Okay, just let it reset here. Okay, I'll get you to start then, just to give me your take maybe on these latest restrictions. Will they have an impact? Is this something that could help kind of this second wave right now?
Yeah. So the new restrictions, unfortunately, were needed. And had we acted earlier, we would not have needed to enact them so heavy-handedly. So that's the nature of exponential growth. It's like investing. If you get in on the ground floor, you can invest less money and make a great profit. If you invest later on, you have to invest a lot more money to make the same amount of profit because the stock price rises pretty dramatically. So when we saw the rise early on, that's the time to enact some small restrictions. Now the rise is later on, we have to act harder to stop the growth. And that means shutting down opportunities for super spreading events. We know now that we didn't know back in March. This disease does not seep out homogeneously across the population. It takes opportunities to punctuate with accelerated growth. These opportunities are found in restaurants, bars, churches, gyms, any chance people have to gather in such a way that they spend a lot of time in close proximity with each other. So if we take those opportunities off the table for a few weeks, then we have a really good chance of bringing the numbers down dramatically. So am I optimistic? I am optimistic. I'm a stupid optimist in general, but I think that 28 days of this will get the numbers down low enough that we can probably reassess where we are. If we spend this time constructively, so the next 28 days, we can fix our testing problem, we can fix our contact tracing problem, and we can redeploy some communication tools to get people to understand what's at stake here.
Seems to be a very targeted approach this time around, right? It's a different version of stage 2 than we saw the first, or of stage 2 than we saw early on. Mostly targeted at small businesses, restaurants, gyms, bars. Not so much retail, not so much some of the big box stores. Some have criticized that, saying unfair to take down small businesses while the Costco's, the Walmarts, the big stores remain open. Is there a reasoning for that? What do you have to say about that?
Okay. First of all, there's a lot of unfairness across this entire pandemic, and we can't let fairness be the litmus test by which we judge our public health measures. We have to make efficacy the litmus test. So we know that there have been outbreaks found in bars. We know that we have outbreaks found in restaurants. We know there are outbreaks in gyms. We know that the CDC found that you're twice as likely to have been to a restaurant the last couple of weeks if you're a COVID infected person than if you're not. We know that in Toronto, 44% of known cases with a trace behind them were in a restaurant or a bar within the last couple of weeks. So those are strong statistical signals. We don't see the same signals in big box places like grocery stores or Walmarts and so forth. There may be a scientific reason for that. So if you go to a restaurant, you are sitting still with a lot of people with your mask off for an extended period of time. If you go to a bar, same thing. Your mask is off, alcohol is flowing, you're pushing by each other, you're sitting next to a long period of time. Exposure multiplied by duration. That's the formula here. We don't get the same formula in a big box store where you're walking by people, where you're probably wearing a mask, where there's a lot of ventilation, where the ceilings are high, and where people are taking extra precautions not to interact with you. So an environment that is anathema to social interaction is less dangerous than an environment that actively encourages social interaction, unfortunately. And unfortunately, that disproportionately disadvantages those small businesses who make their money off of social interaction. Unfortunately, that is the way the science unrolls here.
Unfortunately, it might be a tough hit for some of these small businesses, but you do feel as though these measures are necessary right now and will and could make a difference?
Yeah, I think, look, the alternative is a hammer approach. So back in March, we used the hammer, the economic shutdown. Now we're using a scalpel so that not everyone has to suffer. And we can preserve some of that, financial leverage from the government to compensate those few who have to be disproportionately disadvantaged here. So I think it's a better approach. Like, I don't want to comment on the economics because that's not my here, but it strikes me as the more money you save, the better. You can use that money to better compensate those who are affected. Epidemiologically, though, you identify the big ticket items, the ones you get the biggest bang for your buck on. And if that doesn't work, then you expand to include some other items, unfortunately. The goal here is not necessarily to drive the caseload down, even though that's what we're doing. The goal is to prevent the hospital from being over capacity, and that trend line is concerning. So if we, get that trend line to diminish somewhat, then we can open some things up again and deal with the new cases as they occur, such that the overcapacity is not an issue. So 28 days, I think we can probably do it in 28 days if all goes well. But again, we are focusing, using the scalpel, not the hammer, on those aspects of the economy that we think have the biggest probability of deriving case numbers.
Okay. That's perfect. I think that's all I need.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
Bye-bye.
You're the man. Appreciate the time and enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend.
Thank you so much.
Toronto.
Bye.
Have a good one.